Literature reviews. So sometimes, yes, you are asked to conduct a literature review as a part of your assignment. It's a section that normally goes above your main area, your main discussion, and it features a review of the literature in the area you're covering. Now, if your entire assignment is just to do a literature review, then this video might not be for you, but I will look at doing a series on how to write a literature review. For this video, we're assuming that you've been asked to conduct a literature review as part of your essay. This section is just purely for reviewing literature. It's not something you would get into making points about your essay on, getting too deep into details. You will do some evaluating, you will do some analysis, but of the sources you use and not how that relates to your essay question or the message or what is you're doing on your assignment. A lot of people have trouble with how to go about a literature review, usually because there's lots of literature out there and what's the best way to approach it. Now, I've done 3 literature reviews and I've used 3 different methods. So the first ever literature review I did was on children in care, and I read all the literature, and what I found was there were a lot of themes. There was what is happening within school, and so what was happening after school, what qualifications they left with, and that's exactly what my assignment at the time was looking for: what happens in school and what happens after. So that's how I went about it. It's called a thematic approach to literature reviews, and that's how I went about my literature. I looked at literature that covered both those themes, or at least key literature that covered, and I reviewed them. But for my dissertation, I looked at how children are grouped in schools, and for that it was all based around policy and how policy has changed over the years. So naturally I did what I think is called a chronological order literature review, where you start from the oldest pieces of literature, which for me was a lot of policy, legislation, research in the 60s, and I went to present date. And then my third literature review was for my master's research. I was looking at the 2 different ways of grouping children in 2 different schools. I actually did a bit of both for this literature review. It was actually, a lot of people refer it to as the funnel method, I think, where if you imagine a funnel and at the top you're starting really broad, I was looking at grouping in general, how we group children, but then the research got narrower and narrower to research that was just done in individual classrooms, because that's what my research was. I was just looking at a classroom in it by itself. So I started that research that covered the topic generally, but then I narrowed it down to research similar to mine, where we're just doing it on a classroom basis. That's called a funnel, because you're taking all the broad research to begin with, but then you are filtering it, funneling it down into research just for your area. They're the 3 methods of how to go about a literature review. If you want to see more detail, just ask me in the comments. I might be doing one anyway, as mentioned in another series. But this in general is how you go about a literature review. You are reviewing the sources that you use. You are not going as far to discuss it as part of your essay or to bring out any conclusions or evaluations to support the ideas that you have. That's for later, that's for the discussion, which is also our next video. So keep watching to get the most out of your essay.